Hello and welcome back to Downtime Activities. We've got another help action here for you today, our series where we kind of break down some rules or concepts, mainly from D&D 5th edition. This time going over how to play a werewolf in your 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game. We've done this previously with vampires, and the werewolves have some similarities but also mix it up in a lot of different ways. And I also have some kind of other ways of mixing races and classes to come up with a way to be a werewolf from the start of a game without throwing off your power shift with the other players. So let's get into it. To go over how to play a werewolf, or less specifically a lycanthrope, in D&D 5e, we're going to talk about kind of 3 different paths you can take in order to achieve similar but different power level ways of achieving this. One will be a race, one will be a class, and one will be the monster manual rules that give kind of the official way of becoming a real lycanthrope. First off, we're going to go over the race. The race that we're going to use here is the Shifter from Eberron. The Shifter race gives a couple of different abilities, things like dark vision and keen senses to give you proficiency and perception skill, but the most important is their shifting ability. It's a bonus action that a shifter can take to take on a more bestial appearance. The transformation will last for 1 minute, and when you shift into this other form, you'll gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus your constitution modifier. You'll also gain some more specific benefits, but that'll depend on the type of shifter subrace you select. Once you shift, you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest. The different subraces are as follows: Beasthide, Longtooth, Swiftstride, Wild Hunt, Cliff Walk, and Razorclaw. Each of these kind of encapsulates a different sort of bestial effect. The Beasthide giving you kind of an increase to those temporary hit points as well as some bonus AC, being a big burly animal monster man. The Longtooth will give you the intimidation skill and a natural weapon attack you'll be able to make. The Swiftstride will make you more graceful and speedy and also give you a reaction ability that'll let you move away from opponents without provoking opportunity attacks. The Wild Hunt will make you more of an expert tracker. Cliff Walk will let you climb up cliffs. And the Razorclaw, similar to the Longtooth, will give you a natural weapon attack. Each of these different abilities could make your character seem and play a little bit more like a lycanthropic character, but overall, I find that if you're going for a real true were creature, this will leave you wanting a little bit. These will give you just enough to kind of occasionally have those moments where you feel like you can turn into an animal and tear into your enemies, but without something else going along with this, you're only going to be able to use it for a minute at a time, once per short rest, and it probably won't come up often enough for you to really feel like a were creature. Next up, we're going to go over a Barbarian Path option that does a really good job of making your character into a werewolf, and that's kind of what it's meant to be. This comes from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and is the Path of the Beast. Starting at 3rd level, you can choose this path as a barbarian, and it basically switches your rage from being regular rage, where your character's getting angry and smashing things, to a transformation into a bestial powerhouse, clawing, biting, smashing your opponents. The real key ability here is their Form of the Beast, which they get at 3rd level. This is what lets them transform into a beast using their rage ability, and gives them a natural weapon of their choice, either bite, claws, or tail. Each of these is a little bit different and attacks a little differently. Depending on what kind of lycanthrope your character is, I would choose one of these and use it more often than not, and just make it make sense. At 6th level, they'll get the Bestial Soul ability, and this will give their natural weapons that they gain from their Form of the Beast magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. They also get something to alter their form that allows them to have basically more movement options. This will be a swimming speed, a climbing speed, or an improved jump. At 10th level, they get the Infectious Fury ability, which allows them to impart some of their feral fury into their opponents when they strike them. This takes the form of either some additional psychic damage, or forcing the target to use its reaction to make a melee attack against another creature. And lastly, at 14th level, they'll get the Call the Hunt ability, which is kind of an AoE group buff and self-buff. Basically, it allows the lycanthrope character to gain a bunch of temporary hit points, and also a big group of people around him that he chooses to get bonus damage on their attack rolls for a short amount of time. This Barbarian Path does a really good job of making the character feel like a lycanthrope. I think that for a player who wants to play a were creature of some kind, and do so from the start of a game, this is a pretty good option. The only real drawback I can see here if a player's wanting to be that were character is if you start your campaign at first level, you won't really have any of those abilities until you reach 3rd level and can take this path. So that can cause some issues, but there's a way around this, I think, that I'll go over in just a little bit. The last way of a player becoming a were creature that we're going to go over is the rules from the monster manual in the lycanthrope stat block that goes over each type of lycanthrope in the monster manual itself and what a player who becomes one of those gets for that effect. For all of the types of lycanthropes, the character will gain their speed in non-humanoid form, their damage immunities, their traits, and actions that don't involve equipment. For these stat blocks, they are statted as enemies, so some of them hold weapons. Your character won't just have that weapon whenever they turn into a werewolf, because that doesn't make any sense. But their natural attacks, the player will get. The main abilities of note here that you're going to get from becoming a lycanthrope are A, of course, your shape-changing ability, turning into a beast or a hybrid form of beast and man, like a were creature would. They also will get, in all these stat blocks, some version of keen hearing, smelling, or both, just to kind of show those bestial senses helping them out. For each of the different types of lycanthropes, there's some more specific bonuses that the player is going to get. For a werebear, the character will get to up their strength to 19, if it's not already higher than that, and they'll get a +1 bonus to AC while in their bear or hybrid form from the natural armor. Their attack and damage rolls will be based off of strength with their natural weapons. For a were-boar, the character will gain a strength of 17 if it's not already higher, and a +1 bonus to AC, much like the bear. Their attack and damage rolls for their tusks are also based on strength, and they also get a charge trait with a DC equal to 8 plus their prof bonus plus their strength modifier. For a were-rat, the character will get to up their dexterity to 15 if it's not already higher, and their attack and damage rolls for their bite attack will be whichever is higher between strength or dex. For a were-tiger, the character will get to up their strength to 17 if it isn't already higher, and their attack and damage rolls for their natural weapons will be based on strength. They'll also get a pounce trait from that were-tiger, and the DC for that will be 8 plus prof bonus plus strength modifier. And lastly, the classic werewolf will get to up their strength to 15 if it's not already higher, they'll get that +1 bonus to AC while in wolf or hybrid form from natural armor, and their attack and damage rolls for their natural weapons will be based on strength. This is a really cool option for a player who becomes a werewolf in play and was already kind of on their own path as a different class or different character. The power level here is pretty strong, and it will certainly make your average character much more powerful than another character of the same level, but as long as you run it right, can avoid too many hurt feelings when doing this. An important first distinction is I would avoid doing this early in play. Using this option at early levels will definitely be a big power jump over any other players who are nearby in the same level as the one who gets this, so I'd avoid doing it at low levels to avoid those kind of hurt feelings. Another thing I would suggest is making sure that your player doesn't have full control over this, at least not at first. When you become a werewolf in most classic media, the player doesn't immediately have control over their shape-changing abilities. It's a full moon that brings the beast out of them, and usually they're not in their right mind when it happens. If I had a player become a werewolf specifically using these monster manual rules, I would make them kind of learn and gain more control of it over time. At first, maybe it happens randomly in moments of stress. You can have a system where every now and then your player has to roll a wisdom saving throw or something along those lines that is happening at key moments of high stress, and if they fail, then they have to transform and they're not fully in control of their character. Maybe do something kind of like the berserker rage that makes them attack random people or whoever's the nearest target. Something along those lines will make this power spike kind of be balanced if they get it earlier in play. And then as they continue to hone their abilities and gain control of the beast within them, they can choose when to start shifting and changing into this monster. That will give them this cool power spike and give them the ability to be a werewolf or a were creature without it feeling like just a big boon that they get that no other players get. A kind of last bit of advice, or at least a character concept really, that I think is super neat for a character who's wanting to play a lycanthrope from the very beginning of a campaign, a cool combination is to take that race and that class that I spoke about earlier and slap them together. Be a shifter barbarian, Path of the Beast, and use one of the shifter options along with your bestial transformation you get from that barbarian path to really feel like a ferocious animal tearing people apart on the battlefield. I'm not going to go into a super in-depth breakdown. If people are really interested in this, I could do a character build of this in the future, similar to some of the others I've done on the channel, and give some more breakdowns level by level of what I'd pick. But the basic concept here, you'll be a shifter, and specifically you'll be a Razor Claw shifter, and use that to get their shifting feature, which gives you a natural attack, a basically unarmed strike that you'll get to do as a bonus action on your turn when shifting. If you combine this with the Form of the Beast, you can have some really powerful damaging turns, as the bite attack you can choose for the Form of the Beast will use your action, and if you have multi-attack later on from Barbarian, allow you to make 2 bite attacks and then a bonus action claw. Or, and one that I like even more that really feels like you're a werewolf just tearing through people on the battlefield, is choosing the claw attack you get in the Form of the Beast. Because the way it works is it allows you, once on each of your turns, to make your claw attack, and you can make an additional one on top of your attack action, no action required by you. It's part of the same action, which means that in conjunction with multi-attack later on as a barbarian, you'll be able to make 3 claw attacks plus a bonus action unarmed strike from your shifter form. This will be 4 attacks from a barbarian who can be reckless attacking and all the other barbarian-y things, and so you'll really feel like this ferocious animal just clawing and tearing through your opponents. I like the way this works because it means that even starting a game at first level, your character will have that shifter ability up until level 3 and be able to, in a limited fashion, kind of show their primal bestial power. And then once they hit that 3rd level Form of the Beast spike, they'll be able to combine the 2 together for some really potent combos. It does a good job, in my opinion, of making your character into a were character without your character having to get something from the DM, that monster manual's kind of package of abilities, that'll make other players possibly feel like you're getting something that they're not getting, so it's not fair because you get this new power and no one else does. And it also kind of will help avoid the possibility in play of all your characters becoming lycanthropes. Something of note about the werewolf stats or the were creature stats from the monster manual, it'll give your players the ability to infect other people with this same ability. So if one of your characters get it, it's fairly likely at some point at least one, if not the entire rest of the party will get it, and then you'll just have this kind of power-packed team of werewolves running around being murder hobos. Which could be a really fun campaign, but if it's not the campaign you're wanting to run, it's something worth avoiding. By combining Shifter and Barbarian Path of the Beast, your character from the very start will feel like a werewolf, and will get to kind of scale and level up the same rate as other players, keeping everything fair and fun, while still letting you be the character you want to be. That has been how to play a werewolf in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I hope you found that useful, that some of these kind of methods of doing this work well for you, and if you try it in your game, please leave a comment below on how it goes. If you like this kind of stuff, check out a lot of our other content. We have a ton of help actions, some of them going over similar stuff like this, with changing into vampires or werewolves as a player, or other rules stuff, crafting, all that kind of stuff. So please, check it out, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. We appreciate any interaction at all as a small channel. Now go forth, slay dragons, sling spells, roll dice, and enjoy your downtime activities.